with the January 6th pipe bomber story that is completely blowing up. First of all, let's just say this. Had this guy, Brian Cole Jr., been a MAGA guy, they would have arrested this guy back in the beginning of this, in January of 2021. He would have been arrested within weeks. They would have got this guy. We know that. But the Democrats trying their hardest, especially the influencers, trying their hardest to make it seem as if this guy might have been MAGA, he was anti-Trump. They're even saying like, oh, maybe it was Trump's rhetoric that turned him on when he said, go fight for your country. The problem is this guy bought all this bomb-making material prior to any of that even happening. So that story doesn't make any sense. Everything points to this being a setup. But the latest that we have here, a January Select Committee FBI investigation, the story almost lines up exactly with the affidavit that we have for Brian Cole Jr. So the FBI report that we got, it looks like they had every single piece. Joe Biden's FBI identified the pipe bomber. It seems like if you read this report, they had all the things figured out except the guy's name. It's like there's no way they didn't identify him. If you look, they had the credit cards, they tracked everything, his movement. They had him completely identified. They knew who he was because how would they know which credit card to go and check? They had the credit card that this guy was buying all this bomb explosive material, from 2019 all the way up through 2021. So why did they sit on it? Why did they not make a move? Well, it seems obvious that this guy was going to blow up. The pipe bomber would blow up the narrative that they were setting for this insurrection that never took place. Now, it's 1,000% that they knew who this pipe bomber was. The only real question is, were they involved in setting this guy up? I mean, that's really the main question here. But as we dig further into who the hell this guy really is, like by all accounts, now you had the report that came out that he thought the election was rigged, or he thought Trump was the election was phony, or whatever it was. They tried to make it sound. Anonymous sources say. That was the story that CNN went with, right? The story, CNN, who has Jake Tapper, who told you that a black suspect who was clearly white, these are the same people. Like, they lie, and all they want to do is try to throw shade on the story, get the first thing out there. I mean, that's what's most important to them. So here we go with this now. CNN says, he was upset about the election. He thought the outcome was rigged, or, whatever it was. Now you find out from the people in his family, like his grandma, that said she was surprised. Like, he had no affiliation with any political party. He never voted. He never talked about politics. She was surprised to hear anything about any of this. We also find out that this guy was into My Little Pony. I mean, he was a My Little Pony guy, like obsessed with it, apparently. That's what we're hearing. So is this guy, it doesn't seem like he's wrapped too tight. I mean, that's what it seems like. It seems like they said he was like an autistic kid or a loner kid who kept to himself in his room. He didn't socialize. He didn't go out. So he decides then to make 2 pipe bombs, leave one at the RNC and the DNC. They don't go off. It doesn't work, and he just gives up on his life as an anarchist. I mean, something about this is way off. So did they put this guy up to it is the number one question. That would be the real smoking gun. Obviously, they identified him. If you look at the FBI report and compare it to the affidavit that we have on Brian Cole Jr., it's obvious they knew who the guy was. They had the suspect. Why did they not bring him forward? Now, the kid's family, the father owns like a bail bondsman thing. He's represented by Ben Crump, the big BLM lawyer. There's ties in somewhere to this guy. And I would have to put it to you this way and just say, the only real thing that matters here was not the fact that the FBI knew who he was and decided, hey, let's bury this because it's going to hurt our insurrection narrative that we're trying to push hard right now so we can get something against Trump and put all his supporters in prison. So let's quiet this down. Put this in the trash bin over there or hide this back there. And let's just, say, hey, we can't find this guy. The FBI, we can't, we got stumped by this, My Little Pony lover. I don't believe that. I believe that they might have had a hand in setting this thing up. That's how deep I think that this really would go. Because other than that, the fact that this kid did this on his own doesn't make any sense. If he is who they're telling us that he is. It seems very out of character that this kid would do something like this. And then stop. He's this anarchist, and then he strikes once, it doesn't work, and he hides, he evades the FBI for 5 years, and he never strikes again. This story needs to be told in its entirety, because and of course, the thing we're going to keep coming back to here is, will anyone ever pay the price for this? Will the FBI under Joe Biden, will any of these people that were in charge of the investigation, will any of them do any time? Will we find out, hey, you covered this up, you're going to prison? I mean, do we get any of that? I mean, that's what we really want to see, because this January 6th narrative was brutal for us. It was brutal for us. They used this insurrection narrative to paint all Trump supporters as insurrectionists. They went on with this for years. They threw everybody in jail over it. They were hunting down grandmas at their home and putting them in jail, political prisoners for this stuff. The whole thing was a setup, man. The whole thing was a setup, and I would go as far as to believe that they set this kid up to do this. I mean, I don't see how. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it could be true that this kid just all of a sudden got this idea to create 2 pipe bombs, leave them at the RNC, the DNC, and they didn't go off, and he just gave up his life as an anarchist and went back to his My Little Pony DVDs. I don't think so. I think they had to be involved in this. We need a lot more answers, but when we have this, again, the FBI report compared to the affidavit, it looks like they had every single thing in place. That nothing, just like Kash Patel had said, we didn't get any new information. We didn't get any new details. We looked at what they had here. Oh, look, here's what it is. Oh, here's the guy. You had this the whole time. They had the paperwork that was right there. They had the whole investigation. So why didn't they pull the trigger? They didn't want to pull the trigger because it would have hurt the narrative. The story needs to be told in its entirety. All right? So what's your take on that?
You're listening to the Alec Show. The future is family.